Hello and welcome back to the channel. Let's jump straight in with today's video. Here we are looking at English Language Paper 1 Section A. So this is the comprehension part of the fiction language exam. Start off with a level up challenge. So of the 24 marks available for Section A, 15 are for question 4, which is an evaluation question. You are asked to evaluate something about the extract. So can you write down 3 short phrases that you could use when you are evaluating? It's a specific skill, separate to analysis, separate to explanation, so you need to know what kind of language to use when evaluating. Try and jot 3 things down. I'll give you 3 suggestions at the end of the video. So, my 5 tips for how to pick up more marks in Section A of this exam. Firstly, the extract is always going to be from a 19th century novel. We might find some of the language, therefore, a little bit old-fashioned. We might not recognise all of the words in the extract. That's okay. Concentrate on what you do understand, concentrate on the phrases that you do understand the contexts of, and you will be all right. You may not understand absolutely every word, although there should be a glossary at the end with any particularly tricky words explained for you. But one of the great ways to familiarise yourself with the kind of language in these extracts you're going to see in your exam is to read some 19th century fiction. Just because it was written a long time ago doesn't necessarily mean it's boring. Okay, so there are some suggestions on the next slide. Try popping your phone down maybe half an hour earlier before bedtime and dive into a fantastic classic story. You'd be amazed how relaxing it is, how much it helps you forget the stresses and the strains of that particular day. There are some examples. I think they've all in fact been made into films, so you might recognise all of them, might even have read one or two. Give them a go. Fantastic books. Okay, number 2. Questions 1 and 2, they are worth 1 mark and 2 marks respectively, are not designed to catch you out. I hear quite often in class, they can't be that easy, there's got to be more to it than that. Simple answer is, yes, they can be that easy. Okay? These are specifically designed to ease you into the exam gently. They're not designed to be particularly challenging. As long as you read the question, as long as you pick a short phrase, might even be a single word to answer these, you will be fine. Copying out quotations is absolutely fine. So there's an example there of a short phrase that might be acceptable. You may just literally write down in quotation marks, "he was thrilled." That might be the answer to the question. So very short phrases you're looking for. You should be answering these questions, therefore, very carefully. Be specific, be detailed, make sure you're picking out the best quotation to answer the question, but you should also be doing these nice and quickly. My 3rd tip, don't fall into the trap after question 1 and 2 of spending too long on question 3. You've answered question 1 for 1 mark, question 2 for 2 marks, and then suddenly you're faced with a 6-mark question. A lot of students seem to think, therefore, that they have to write a lot for a 6-mark question. Not necessarily. It is the first chunky question, but you don't necessarily have to spend too long writing paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. You should not be spending any more than 10 minutes on this. So my advice is 2 paragraphs, 1 on language, 1 on structure, is absolutely fine to pick up these 6 marks. Yes, you must use relevant quotations. Yes, you must answer the question specifically and in detail, but it doesn't take too long to pick up these 6 marks. You can see at the top of the mark scheme here in level 3 for 5 or 6 marks, it does not mention how many paragraphs you should write. It simply says that you should analyse both language and structure using quotations and being clear and detailed. So that's what you should aim for. My 4th tip, question 4, as I mentioned in the level up challenge, is testing a completely different skill to question 3. I read a lot of answers to question 3 and 4, and they are very similar. So don't confuse analysis with evaluation. There is separate, distinct language to use when you are evaluating. Okay? The definition of evaluation, by the way, is to make a judgment. Make a judgment about something, maybe a value judgment about the effectiveness of the extract you've been given in some way. So you're going to talk about how effectively the writer does things, how effectively the writer creates specific effects on the reader. One example, as I've said there, is how effectively the writer creates tension. So here are some words that are evaluative or can be used evaluatively. You might be talking effectively, highly effectively, fairly effectively. You might talk about the difference between implicit language and explicit language. You might say it's used skillfully or persuasively. This is the kind of language that you want to be using to pick up marks here. You could also use to a lesser extent or to a greater extent. That shows discerning engagement with the text. So that's absolutely fine to use. If you think one particular technique that answers the question is not as effective as another, it's not really a good idea to use negative or critical language. You might then in that instance say that this was effective but to a lesser extent than the previous example you've given. That's absolutely fine. Number 5, keeping a track of time, always essential. I know I spoke about this in the last video, but also with section A, need to keep a track of time. So here are some slightly more detailed suggestions as to how you can stick to this somewhere between 45 and an hour long time to answer section A. So if you add up all of those timings, they're very easy to remember: 5 to 10, 5, 10, 20 to 25. That adds up to somewhere between 40 and 50 minutes, which is about right. That will give you just over the hour then to concentrate on the 40-mark creative writing question. Okay, so that's what you're aiming for. You're not going to watch the clock to the absolute minute, of course, in an exam. You'll be too busy thinking, checking the extract and writing. But somewhere around that 40 to 50 minute mark would be ideal. So the two biggest causes, I would say, in my experience, of dropping marks in English exams, and one of them very, very relevant here. The first one is absolutely poor revision, a lack of detailed knowledge, being vague, being overly general, not making specific, detailed and relevant use of quotations. But number 2, and probably a close number 2, is poor time management. So not allocating the right amount of time, not writing the correct amount of material for the right question. So you don't want to be writing about the same for a 15 marker as you did for a 6 marker. So make sure before the exam you know this, you're confident, you're prepared, and these two common mistakes don't apply to you. So some evaluative language then. These are just 3 examples. There are lots and lots and lots of evaluated language that you could potentially use. But we want to be specific, we want to be detailed, we want to use quotations, we want to answer the question, and we want to make some kind of judgment about effectiveness on the part of the writer. So you can see, I won't read through all of them, but if we look at number 2, for example, so a dark and chilling atmosphere is established from the outset. So I've noticed that, I'm going to give evidence of it. How is that achieved? It's achieved through the use of adjectives in this example, and then I would have my quotation showing adjectives that are hopefully establishing a dark and chilling atmosphere, and hopefully these adjectives are taken from somewhere near the beginning of the outset of the extract, because that's what I've said there. Okay. So 10-minute revision exercises. This is taken from the June 2017 exam paper. We have a chunk of the extract there, and then we have a question 3, because as we know, of course, question 3 should take no more than 10 minutes. So a quick 10 minutes now, and then you'll have an idea of how confident you are about this question. Do you need more practice either in the classroom, or watch the videos that are going to be upcoming on my channel, and that will give you more practice on question 3. But how does the writer use language and structure? So we're looking for one detailed paragraph on language, one specific and detailed paragraph on structure. How do they show the narrator's thoughts and feelings? All right, so give that a go. If you find it difficult, then as I said, upcoming videos will show you how to pick up these 6 marks, but just give it a go for 10 minutes. Really good use of time at the end of the video here. So, quick summary of what we have covered. The extract will be from a 19th century novel. It makes sense then to familiarise yourselves with that style of writing from that period in history. Try reading some 19th century novels. Question 1 and 2 are simple. They are quick. You need to be specific. You need to answer the question, but they should not take you too long, and they are absolutely not designed to catch you out. So don't think that they are trick questions at all. They're not. Number 3, don't spend too long on question 3. 6 marks, 2 paragraphs, 10 minutes max. Question 4 is evaluating. It is not the same as question 3, so you need to use that specific evaluative language. Lots of details I've given you, lots of examples, I've given you detail on in the video. And finally, keeping a track of time is one of the 2 main reasons that people drop marks in exams, so make sure that doesn't apply for you. You have plenty of time to answer all the questions in section A, pick up as many as possible of these 24 marks, and leave yourself a proportionately wise amount of time to tackle the 40-mark section B. There we are, another video done. I hope you found that really useful. We've now covered both sections of English Language Paper 1, purely in terms of 5 tips, 5 exam tips to approach each section. So there will be more detailed videos coming up on how to pick up those marks, how to structure your answers in future. Please take a minute to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on upcoming content. Hopefully you've started revising by now. Maybe some of you have, maybe some of you haven't. But just remember, don't put too much pressure on yourself. You don't need to do 2 hours on your first evening for English. 2 minutes is better than nothing. So start off with 2 minutes and then 5 minutes, and just build up gradually from there as you build good habits. If you are interested in online tutoring, if you would like some additional support in the run-up to your exams, then please ask an adult to drop me an email. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.